technology is a wonderful thing, as we all know. And welcome everybody. For confirmation of the agenda, the suggested motion that the Council of the Township of North Huron accept the agenda for March 21st, 2016 Council meeting as amended to include item 10.7, bylaw 35, 2016, chief building official appointment, and a closed session item 13.6, shared services, dealing with chief building official appointment. Do I have a mover? Vauden and Ritzman Kaninga. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, if any. None noted. And moving to consent agenda. 4, is there any questions or comments in there? The minutes, we have to have a motion for 4.11 that the minutes of the last meeting. Deputy Reeve Campbell and Councillor Sun.
So it's to adopt those minutes and also that all other consent items be received for information. So it takes care of the whole agenda there.
All in favor? Carried.
You are at public meeting.
5.5 of the agenda. That public meeting 5.1, or is that right? Or so we have Mark Rupke to make a presentation from Viola Water Services.
Do I need to get something to get this to present? It's warming up stuff. All right. While I'm waiting for it to warm up, I should probably learn how long I have to present here.
You have 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Okay, great. Thank you. Reeve, members of council, thanks for having me here. Chance to let me tell you a little bit about Veolia. And while I stall time, while the PowerPoint still warms up. There we go. Resourcing the world, Veolia. I'd like to just spend 10 minutes, apparently, giving you a little bit of background about Veolia, who we are, our capabilities, and get into a little bit of detail around what we're proposing to help your municipality out with your water and wastewater services. Veolia is a global company. I manage a small part of it. I manage our Canadian municipal and commercial operations in central Canada as our VP of operations. But you can see from the map, we're the biggest company nobody's ever heard of. Frankly, we've got over 200,000 employees around the world. We manage water and wastewater services on behalf of municipalities and industry worldwide. We go back a long way, over 160 years, originally founded in France in the 1850s to look after water and wastewater in the city of Paris. We've since amalgamated, grown, and in the early 2000s became Veolia. Started out as what were we? General des Eaux, a good French name for a company. Along the way, we've obviously learned a lot about water and wastewater, and we like to bring that expertise to our clients nowadays. In 2014, one of the things you'll see throughout this presentation, if you look at it, is the theme of resourcing the world. In our history, we were water and wastewater operators. Now the company very much is focused on resourcing the world, turning waste into products, reducing waste. So we're doing lots of work looking at extraction from waste streams, not only water and wastewater, other waste streams, but really looking at the circular economy, trying to make what is a negative in most communities into as much of a positive as we can. We can't make it go away, but we come to it with that mindset now, that this isn't just a waste that we need to get rid of. There's a resource opportunity here. Even if that resource is just saving money for the municipality so that they can meet other needs within the municipality. Some brief operating statistics. This is one slide that'll be a little bit different than your other slides you saw earlier, because I got the nice bar chart just the other day. In North America, we're the largest private operating company in North America, with about 36% of the operating market. The bar chart across the bottom is worldwide, and that's Veolia on the far left-hand side. We operate more water and wastewater systems than anybody else in the world. So in North America, we operate hundreds of facilities. Within Canada, most of our operations are right in this area. We sort of circle, as you'll see, around the Great Lakes in southwestern Ontario here. So we operate South Bruce, Goderich, Walkerton to the north here, Goderich, ACW, Morris Turnberry, Huron Kinloss. We're operating the water and wastewater services in all those communities. Actually, I just live south of here in Ipperwash Beach. So this is my backyard, essentially. We also operate in some of the biggest areas like Toronto and out in Atlantic Canada. We built the water treatment plant for the city of Moncton, Riverview, and Dieppe. Prior to our business there, they were basically drinking river water that had the fish and sticks removed from it. So we gave them a modern treatment plant, and now they actually, in their hotels in Moncton, shortly after the plant came online, they were actually advertising the quality of their water in the hotels in Moncton. They were so pleased with the water coming out of the new treatment plant. Just a little bit broader, some of our other sites. So you can see we're scattered pretty well across North America. Nothing really in the desert down the middle of the U.S., because there's not a whole lot of people there. But a good regional population all across North America. And these are all, the way our company works, these are all resources we share between all of our facilities, so we can draw on expertise and personnel from any of those facilities. Just to give you a sense of the scale we operate across, we operate the largest plants in North America. This happens to be in Toronto. We don't operate the entire plant. We operate a little part of that one, but I'm certainly very familiar with that plant, having run that plant in a previous position with the city of Toronto. And we operate similar sized plants in other cities like Milwaukee, down to some of the smallest plants in the world, things that are handling just a few cubic meters a day of water. The one on the right is kind of a fun one. It's actually up in the Arctic Circle at one of the dew line bases, and we went up there and helped them figure out what was wrong with their wastewater system because they were having problems with it. Our company does everything in the water and wastewater cycle. My primary focus in our discussion with you is around operation and maintenance of your existing water and wastewater systems. Veolia also has an equipment supply arm that often known as Jean Monnier here in Canada, out of Quebec, or Veolia Solutions and Technologies. We also design and build treatment plants, and then hopefully operate them as well. We're currently looking to design and build a new facility for the city of Hamilton is one of the things we're currently pursuing. And when we do operate and maintain a facility, we would like to provide everything needed to do that. We don't want to be coming back to clients going, oh, well, you need to do this, and that's going to be extra, and you need this, and that's going to be extra. Our mindset going in is everything that needs to happen here should be covered by the contract. Unless it's something very unusual, it's covered under our contracts. Getting into the specifics of Our plan for you, we're looking to add North Huron into our sort of regional operations. That tends to be the way we structure our business, that we'll have a regional hub and then try to support other municipalities from that regional hub so that we get a better sharing of resources, a better synergy between our various projects. So John Graham is currently our project manager over in Goderich. He also looks after a number of the surrounding municipalities. We propose him to be the project manager for this project as well. And then there would be a lead operator, somebody to help him. John, obviously managing a number of municipalities, needs to focus at the managerial level, the business level. We have a lead operator who would be more of a technical lead locally, and then he would be assisting your local O&M staff. And our proposal is that your people currently know the facility, that they're good operators. We've been working with them for a number of months. We've been OROing your systems, fulfilling that legal requirement for a licensed operator for your facilities for a number of months. We've gotten to know your guys. We know them through the industry. They know what they're doing. They need the support that Veolia can provide, the back office, the administration, the technical expertise in a much broader sense. So we don't want to change staff. We're not going to pull in new people and displace people who are already here in your community doing the job. And that's the approach we take everywhere we go, that we don't want to displace people from the local community unless there's a hole there or there's an absolute need to do something. They're always going to be our first line, our first resource, because they know the facilities. Off to the side there, you see our corporate resources. That's a lot of the value Veolia brings. We've got hundreds of resource people throughout North America, in the US. We can even reach into Paris. I'm on conference calls almost weekly with somebody from Paris or somewhere else in the world who's one of our worldwide experts on some particular problem. So when there is a problem in your local facility, all of those resources are available, and we do that at no charge to our clients. If we need to know something, we just reach out to whoever in the company knows it. More often, they'll fly into a place to take a look. And I don't believe I've ever charged a client for bringing in that type of expertise. There's a few faces to some of the names. Just to give you an idea, these are all people that most of our projects would talk with on a weekly or monthly basis, just to reach out, get assistance on something. How am I doing on time? Pretty close. All right. Some more stuff on just our environmental focus. We've developed a bunch of tools looking at water impact, things to help with sort of greenhouse gas emissions quantification. You see the water impact index, things that help municipalities make environmentally sound decisions. So those are just some of the ways we're trying to help make the water and wastewater facilities within a municipality as environmentally friendly as they can be. Talking about your existing staff, being an employer of choice is one of our key corporate values. We want the best, the brightest operators working for us, and we want them to stay with us, be happy with us. So we put a fair bit of effort into making sure that we're treating our staff well. My business model is certainly not to make money off of the backs of the operators by paying them less or something. We want to keep them where they are. We want to pay industry rates and have the best, most productive operators we can. So a lot of the value we bring is our management systems. We're operating hundreds of plants in North America, thousands of plants worldwide. We know how to manage those plants, how to mitigate the environmental risk and the human health risks these facilities pose. So how to take the existing operators who are doing a good job technically and administratively as well, but just bolster that administrative systems they have around them to make sure nothing falls through the cracks, because that's where water and wastewater plants get into trouble. Somebody misses something. So nobody does an environmental or heaven forbid another Walkerton intentionally. It's something gets missed. So we have a lot of management systems in place to ensure that you've got more than one set of eyes on everything, to make sure nothing gets missed, and that we prevent things like that from happening prior. We've got systems to check them, keep it from happening, not to respond to it once it does. We do respond as well, of course, but much better to prevent it in the first place. Asset planning, asset management. These are your facilities. These are always going to be your facilities. We're just caretakers for them. So we know that you've made a huge investment in them. You want them back as good, maybe even better than you gave them to us. Not that you're giving them to us, but as when we walked in the door. So we have a considerable amount of work that goes into our asset management planning, making sure we have computerized maintenance management systems in place, making sure that the needs of that equipment are being looked after, and that things are being replaced when they need to be replaced, that things are maintained in the proper manner so that nothing falls apart, and it certainly doesn't fall apart the day we leave. It'll keep running just as well as it did the day we walked in the door, if not better. Just a brief sort of list of some of the things we consider to be normal operational functions. Like I said, we don't live and die by these lists. Many of the contracts I have with municipalities don't even have a list like this in them. We just say, we'll do everything that's necessary. Because a problem with a list like this, you're always going to forget something off the list when you're writing it up. If it needs to get done, we're doing it. And finally, just one example of one of our plants. This is one I'm particularly proud of. I mentioned it before. This is the Moncton water treatment plant. If you're ever out in Atlantic Canada, Rick, the project manager there, is always happy to have people in and give them a tour. One thing that does always impress me about this plant is the little graphic on the right-hand side, the stop, yield, go safely. Rick had to redo one of his floors recently, and this is leading from his office area into the actual treatment plant. And it's a reminder to all the staff that before you go through that door where the actual equipment is, think about safety. So they literally can't walk into that room without thinking about safety. And that's one of our key corporate values as well, is safety. And the fact that you can eat off the floor in this plant is nice too. It's a gorgeous facility. So that's my quick spiel in terms of some of our history and who we are. I'd love to open it up to questions if that's appropriate. If there's something else you'd like to know.
It looks like you've gone over the corporate overview quite broadly, and seems to have answered the questions for now anyway. If we can't get you, we can get a hold of John Green.
Oh yeah, my cell phone's always on too. So
okay,
and John's capable of answering pretty much any question as well. All right.
Well, thank you very much for now, Mark.
Thank you.
Moving to 6.1, there's a site plan application for 110 Pine Street, Plan 410, Park Lot 17, RP 22R 3610, parts 14 and 15 in the Wingham Ward, Township of North Huron. Do you want me to read the whole thing, or Laura, you will take care of describing what's going on?
Sure, thanks.
Thank you.
Small. Sorry, I thought it'd be bigger, but there's a picture in the report. So this is a site plan application for 110 Pine Street in Wingham, and it's for a proposed medical marijuana production and packaging facility. It's recommended that this site plan be approved with the conditions listed in the submitted report and in the signed site plan agreement. The site plan also includes submitted drawings for the site layout by architect David James Dybell, and for stormwater management drawn in by BM Ross and Associates and reviewed by Burnside, and also include the permit to develop issued by the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, as the property is located within part of the flood fringe for the Maitland Valley. This is kind of an overview of how the site would be laid out, with the proposed dark shaded as the parking lot, the first phase of the building, and then the location of the lot is existing green space, a potential location for a second phase building with the stormwater management pond at the farthest south piece of the property. Conditions of the site plan agreement include completing any site surfacing, providing and maintaining any drainage or stormwater management measures as recommended by the engineers, snow removal, and landscaping. So this is a close-up on the north half of the property, showing the initial building and then the required parking as well for employees and shipments. The subject property is designated industrial in the North Huron official plan and zoned light industrial IND1 in the North Huron zoning bylaw. The applicant's proposing to develop a medical marijuana production and packaging facility on the property with accompanying parking space for employees and the loading area. Currently, it is a vacant lot in the industrial area in Wingham, and the applicant completed a D6 study to investigate the potential environmental dust, odor, and noise impact of the proposed development. The D6 study concluded that the proposed facility is over the minimum separation distance required for a Class 2 facility from the nearest sensitive land use. And in the opinion of GHD, who completed the study, the property is within the zone of influence would experience insignificant environmental noise impacts, most likely from the generator located to the north of the property. The subject property was also in the Wingham Area Industrial Land Use Strategy, the Wales study that was done by the planning department, as you attended the meetings over the past several years for, and it was included in the archaeological assessment and the environmental impact statement that was completed as part of the project. So this is actually the first property to come out of the Wales study that is to be developed. So it's exciting to see some results as a result of that industrial land strategy. The site plan has been reviewed against the requirements of the North Huron zoning bylaw and was found to comply. And comments from township staff on the application indicated no objections, and any items of concern were addressed through the site plan agreement. So it is recommended that the site plan application with all supporting documents be approved. And there's another look at the north half of the facility. Happy to answer any questions about this.
Trevor?
Laura, not sure if it's you or Sharon, has there been any comments from the William Police Service or the Huron County OPP about the potential risks with regards to safety for ratepayers within this area?
There are security measures being taken on the property. It will be surrounded by a 12-foot fence that's electrified with razor wire on the top, and there is a 24-hour guard on duty. And in the site agreement, it is arranged that the fire and police and township staff will have access 3 times a year to the property to do a walkthrough and make sure it's up to standards. And as well, it is licensed by the ministry, so it is also meeting federal regulations as well for safety.
Thank you.
Councillor Knott moves. Councillor Sipe seconds. All in favor? Thank you very much, Laura. Okay. 6.1.2 is a consent application, and I wanted to speak to that. So that Laura give the report, and then that James and I will maybe switch places after you give the report.
Sure, thank you. So this is an application for a severance for 85769 Beecroft Line, submitted by Hank Pickard of Frog Stream Holding Limited, and Hank is here tonight as well. This application is being recommended for the North Huron Council to recommend denial. And there's the information and the location of the property. The purpose of this application is to create a new vacant lot to construct a house in an agricultural area. The proposed property The proposed severed property is approximately 3 acres and currently vacant, and the proposed retained property is approximately 5.5 acres with an existing house and sheds. The subject property is zoned NE2, Natural Environment Limited Protection, in the North Huron zoning bylaw, and is designated in the official plan as Natural Environment Limited Protection and Agriculture. Comments received by the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority identified there is a stream valley and floodplain on the subject property within MVCA regulated area. Comments received from them included that there does appear to be sufficient room on the proposed severed parcel to construct a new residence and septic outside of the MVCA regulated area and the noted hazard lands, but does recommend on-site stakes to show setbacks for any proposed development. This aerial photo here shows the current property and the proposed retain with the existing house and sheds, and the proposed severed, which is located on the other side of a small creek that bisects the corner of the property on the Beecroft line. Using this comparing this application to applicable policies, the provincial policy statement states in section 2341 that lot creation in prime agricultural areas is discouraged and may only be permitted for agricultural uses, agricultural related uses, or a resident surplus to a farming operation, or any necessary infrastructure. Section 2343 goes on to explicitly prohibit the creation of a new residential lot in prime agricultural area, unless it is a resident surplus to a farming operation. This application proposes to create a vacant building lot in a prime agricultural area contrary to the policies of the PPS. The County of Huron official plan also discourages lot creation in a prime agricultural area, and section 231 identifies Huron County as a prime agricultural area, including the subject property, and this application does not also meet the county official plan. Within the North Huron official plan, the subject property is designated Natural Environment Limited Protection and Agriculture. The section for consents in natural environment are permitted, consents in the natural environment designation are permitted for a lot enlargement, either if the lot has a minimum size of 38 hectares, which is approximately 94 acres, or is eligible for rezoning to permit a residence as per the natural environment section. This property is not for lot enlargement, does not meet the minimum lot size, and does not conform to the policies to permit the construction of a dwelling as per the rezoning. That section does speak to possible permit limited development in a natural environment designation, but it is that one single detached dwelling and accessory building may be permitted, provided it is on an existing lot of record and not the subject of a consent. Since this application proposes to sever a vacant lot to build a house, it makes it the subject of a consent and not in agreement with the permitted development policies in the natural environment section of the official plan. The agricultural consent policies state that consents will not be allowed which have the effect of creating lots, the use of which is not for farming, which is not directly related to agriculture. Non-farm rural residences will not be allowed. This application proposes to create a non-farm rural residence, which is stated as to not be permitted as per the agricultural policies. This application does not conform to the North Huron official plan, nor section 5124C of the Planning Act. The previous application was received in Huron County to create a residential building lot in an agricultural area. And at the time, study was done to determine how many similar or applicable properties there would be that could submit a similar severance if it was approved. Looking at North Huron specifically, over 100 properties are zoned Natural Environment, Agriculture, or AG4, and are 10 acres or less. This is similar conditions for severing a residential building lot in an agricultural area. At the county level, at the time of the study, 9,500 lots were discovered to meet the similar criteria for a possible building lot. If these were created, it would mean that a consequence of the subject properties being severed would be increased minimum distance separation throughout the county. In the county-wide case, this would be up to over 120,000 acres or 17% of the county, further limited by minimum distance separation, thus affecting operations such as dairy farms or hog farms. The previous application was appealed by the province and the Federation of Agriculture, and then ultimately withdrawn by the applicant. This is to show this is not a one-off creation of a residential building lot in an agricultural area, because there are similar sizes and designations that exist throughout North Huron and the county. The planning policies state in all three documents, the provincial policy statement, the county official plan, and North Huron official plan, to protect agriculture. And this is done by directing growth to urban settlements such as Blythe and Wingham. These areas are meant for residential growth, with money and funds already being allocated for their services to provide residential growth. Permitting development in an agricultural area could take away from growth being encouraged in an urban area. And as this application is not supported by provincial policy statement, county official plan, or North Huron official plan, it is recommended to recommend denial, and conditions were not included in the report.
Brock?
I have a question, Laura. A lot of the rules, as far as I'm concerned, in the provincial policy statement are bureaucratic in nature and often have nothing to do with what makes sense in a given particular situation. It strikes me that this must be largely a bureaucratic decision. I mean, I can't see that this little property being rezoned in this way is going to have a drastic effect on anything. I think that we're maybe splitting hairs here. That's my comment. Doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Okay, would you like me to speak to that?
I
guess it's not a question, I won't speak to it.
if you want to make a comment, go ahead.
Just that all policies drafted in the official plan for North Huron and then through the county plan all do draw from the provincial policy statement, which set out the province-wide policies, and so it is across the province that residential building lots are not to be created in an agricultural area.
Deputy Reed?
This lot has been zoned residential natural environment, with most of this lot being zoned residential. There's not a whole lot of natural environment in this. So the question is, why would we have to change the rezoning of this acre and a half? Because they've already paid residential taxes on this piece of property. So why the change now?
If this property was created, it would need to be rezoned to reflect the right to build a house, a permitted use to build a house. Currently, the entire subject property as a whole is zone natural environment, natural environment 2, which is limited protection and does not currently permit a house to be built as a permitted use. This house was built prior to being zoned natural environment 2, which means that it exists as a legal non-conforming and could be assessed by MPAC as residential for tax purposes. But a house and constructing a dwelling is not permitted in the natural environment zone. So any new lot created in a natural environment area would need to be zoned to permit a house.
Another question too. We have a note here from Maitland Valley, and I've also seen a letter from Maitland Valley which states that they have no problem with this because there is sufficient room to build a house that does not affect the natural environment. So does the county take anything into consideration, because most of these regulations come under Maitland Valley? So who decides whether or not this should be permitted?
Maitland Valley assesses what hazards would be there. So if there was anything like a flood risk or erosion risk for the soil, and if it would be against any natural hazards or what threats would exist against a house being built there. And they do regulate the areas to be able to have the chance to assess those properties on a site-by-site basis if they are okay to put a house or if there's sufficient room outside of any hazard area. But I apply this application against the policies, which state that there are minimum criteria to be able to build in a natural environment area or sever a new property in a natural environment area. So
But the lot is sufficient to build a home on.
Maitland Valley has
Has
indicated,
made that statement.
yes, they've indicated that there's enough space, but my report is based on the fact that there's no policy that supports this application.
So if we had to do rezoning for this, I'm assuming that the owner who was sitting here tonight would be quite willing to pay for whatever rezoning had to be done. As long as it goes on to the next step. Is that correct then?
Yes, if this lot was created, a rezoning would be the condition of the severance for it to move and be finalized, such as any surplus severance. A condition of that is for each property in the surplus severance for a farmhouse to be rezoned, so that it is existing as a permitted use.
Just one further question. We have a couple here that have lived here for 40 years. They've raised their family on this property. I don't think, well, they might be pretty well 40 years that some of those kids are. They've all been on that property anyway. Here we have a couple that want to build a retirement home, is what the criteria is. And part of my thinking is, if there's people that want to stay in the community, let's do our best to keep them in the community, not to drive them out of the community. Myself personally, I would not want to go to town. That's just my thinking. We have a couple here that wants to retire out here and stay in our community and be a part of our community. And the fact that we have 9,500 lots in the county, here's one lot that we can use. To me, the upper tier government here is taking away tax dollars that we should be getting. And we try to get as many tax dollars as we possibly can. But for some reason, there's other areas that I see some of these things being done. I think we should be allowed to do this here in our municipality. That's my feeling. And I think we're splitting, like Councillor Bodden has stated, we're splitting hairs here to deny this.
Councillor Wyden?
I'd like to point out that, Vincent, that as you know, we have made exceptions where we have gone against the recommendation of our planning department and against the regulations because of extraneous or special circumstances with the case. And I think the thing is missing here is the argument that the owner could put forth so to make us better informed as to what the issues are on both sides of the fence. And so I certainly hope that we can hear what their case is and very much in line with what Councillor Campbell has raised.
Any other comments from councillors? Councillor Syke?
Yeah, like I've heard both sides, and I look at this as a pure. I don't grow up in a farm. I've never been on a farm. I've been a town kid my entire life, so I don't necessarily understand the understanding of being out in the country and living in those that area. But what I do concern myself is with trends and what could we be opening up from a I hate to use the word, what worms are we opening up by making exceptions to policies that we have had countless discussions about. We've just had a review of our policies from the policies, right from the zoning bylaw right up through. Understand at that point, but the conversation where it says is that, and I come back, is that if Huron County is coming back as an agricultural driven county, and if we're potentially losing now correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, we're potentially could lose 9,500 rural area to farmhouses or to houses when they're actually designated as agriculture. I don't know what that type of land is. What is that saying about the nature of agriculture in Huron County? I guess that's not I don't know what the answer is, but I just go back to the conversation about what is, if we do one, when Councillor Campbell and Councillor Bodden have said extenuating circumstances, well, I would have to be very extenuating circumstances to open up such a thing, because if everybody now tomorrow comes and asking for the same issue, how do we go into all conscious deny it if that is the case? So I think we have to be very clear on what extenuating circumstances or exceptions are. But again, I leave it to the rest of the council too. But those are my comments about the whole, as I see it from 1,000 feet.
Okay, Councillor Knott.
Laura, can you tell me, when I look at this now, how much of that proposed severed property is actually being used for agricultural purposes right now today?
The area that's cleared probably in the aerial
On the
photo.
photo, so
Yeah.
ballpark, maybe ask the owner how much of that is actually, he might have a good idea. What is that, about maybe half an acre of land?
I would say about an acre of land, and it hasn't been agriculture land for as long as we've been there. We've cut it as a lawn. It's
So
never been agriculture.
in fact, what we see here inside that red area that is cleared is actually just lawn. You're not actually farming that property?
No.
Okay. All right. Laura, I have a question for you. Is it possible to actually make a condition of the severance of the property that the applicant themselves has to construct a home and maintain ownership of it for a period of time? Can you do that?
No, because the property can be resold.
That was my, we can't block that, so okay. So that becomes a bit of an issue. Okay.
James,
I would think the landowner could maybe comment on that statement or not, or later.
remember our policy
Okay.
that we
Yes.
had? That there's an opportunity for that.
Okay.
If council is done, I want to make a number of comments. So James and I should trade seats.
All these wires. Be careful.
It's okay, Jim, it doesn't work anyway. Well, Chris,
Everything's working now.
mine's still flashing red.
Do that. Maybe get down and go ahead, James.
Okay, thank you. I'll start out. Laura does a fantastic job on reading what the rules are. The one thing that I will say in this case, it's very negligible agricultural land that is being affected. I was up to 6 miles south of Meaford yesterday. Once you get into Grey County, 3 and 4 houses on 50 acres is quite common. We are competing in somewhat. Their agricultural capability is not what it is. But in the agricultural, if we are still following what everything in the rule book says to the letter of the law, we could end up with, I'll say, under 50 houses in the former township of East Wallinash within the next 15 years. It's drastic. Agriculture is changing so fast. In this particular plot, it was 8 acres that was done as taken off the farm years ago to create the lot that they have. If this was in an urban area, it would be called infilling, which is very strongly encouraged. And for the I'll say, extremely small amount of agricultural land that it would be taking out of agricultural production. I believe that this is something we're going to have to look at very carefully, maybe formally change the rules, because unfortunately, since 1973, when the Huron County plan started, the county as a whole has lost population every year. This is that one, and I'll say this is one house that can go against the trend, because I live across the river. I understand the beauty of this area, the natural setting that it has. And while I respect Laura telling us what the rules are, I believe this is an excellent thing to do on behalf of the township, and looking forward in the township to having a population base, that this is one of the things that we as a council can do. I will take the chair before the vote, so that it is it's just a natural thing to do. And at the committee, at the county level, I know are looking, and they have went against the provincial policy and the county policy before in approving things like this. This isn't taking it away from the farm. This is splitting, infilling a lot that was done when the natural environment section was taken away from the farm years ago.
Oops.
James.
I'd like to make a motion that we ask the Kipperts to go ahead with this, go against the county on this.
That you will,
Make a motion to give them approval of this to go ahead.
the applicants, do you want to speak any further, or?
It's just that the wife and I would really love to stay in the country and build a retirement home. That was our concern.
Okay.
Possibly.
That we need to put together a motion as to the suggested motion is to deny because of it doesn't really fit all the plans. That and if we're putting a motion together, you will have to state what you want. Deputy Reed? Sharon, just a second.
Do you mind if I just ask a question before you go to the vote? You had mentioned in your report that you did not include any conditions in your report because you were recommending denial. Based on the conversation, if council recommends approval, would you suggest any conditions that should be added to that?
I do have a contingency. I do have conditions that would be, if this is going to be recommended to the county for approval, I do have conditions that are recommended to go with the severance. So they include the standard conditions of a 1-year expiry, municipal requirements, the cash in lieu of parkland, a survey to completed, the severed property be properly rezoned to permit a house, and also to satisfy any concerns from the MVCA and the Huron County Stewardship Coordinator, to make sure there's no concerns addressing drainage and to make sure that any septic is properly addressed as well. So these would, if this was to be recommended for approval, I would recommend that these are hereby attached.
Okay, thank you.
I'll agree with that. The motion that she had at the very top. Just drop it down a page there. Recommend to apply this for the provision. The application be considered for the property.
In essence, you are recommending a motion of approval with the stated conditions. Hank?
John Shank, my lawyer, would have a few comments.
John?
I think that the council has already covered most of the issues that are germane to this. So I had prepared some comments, but I'm going to limit it to just one aspect of it. Because you did suggest or question about whether this was different than other cases, whether this was one of the herd or whether this is an unusual situation. I speak as somebody that practices in this area, in this county for more than 30 years. It's an unusual situation because of the stream, because of the natural environment area in the middle. So you've got a building lot, and a natural environment with a stream. It was suggested, and Laura was one of the people that suggested that we should look, and I'm not taking, I mean, she's a very good plan. But she suggested to us, see if you can justify this on the basis of it being a natural severance as a navigable waterway. And we contacted Doug Culbert as an Ontario land surveyor, which is one of the two paths available to us to do that. And the other would be to involve the ministry. But because it would be Crown land, in other words, if it was a navigable waterway. Doug Culbert came and looked at it. And while it is a substantial creek, it's not a drainage ditch, it's not a trickle of water, it's never going dry, it's got two substantial bridges to cross it. You wouldn't jump it, you wouldn't, you could wade it, but you'd want to have your bathing suit on. But Doug gave his opinion and he said, no, he didn't feel that it was navigable to the extent that you could justify it being a commercial use, kind of a riverboats or anything like that, that would justify Her Majesty the Queen claiming it as Crown land for the province. But he went on in his report to say that the natural land is, which is what I'm trying to say, it is in fact, in a sense, a natural severance, because the property is divided naturally by something that you could never farm, you could never build on, you could never. He went on to say that it does make a natural location for a house. He carries on to say that the proposed severance can be distinguished from the provision in the official plan and all these other policies. Our official plan here in North Huron is really an extension of the provincial statement. And so it's a repeat of basically the same thing gets said over and over again. But he said this could be distinct or can be distinguished from the official plan because the proposed severed land is already a part of a non-farm residential lot. That's the only use that goes on that property. So allowing this consent does not diminish the agricultural land base in any manner. He carries on, he says, also, the intent of the official plan and the Ontario planning policy was to prevent vacant parcels from being split from an existing farm. That's not the case in this matter at hand, because the use of, and then he carried on, mentioned that the use of the piece of land isn't really usable as agricultural at any event, as Mr. Kickert said, it's a piece of lawn on the far side of the stream. I think that's all I really could add to the discussion.
Ray seconds.
I'm very supportive of it. Like enough said.
If I might, follow the motion that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby approve the consent application file B68 2015, owner of Rockstream Holdings Limited, care of Hank Kicker, 85769 Beecroft Line, part lot 30, concession 11, East Wabanach, Township of North Huron, subject to the conditions recommended for the provisional consent by the county planner.
Councillor Slade?
Yeah, I just want to have, ask Laura one more question with regards to her study. In that study of those 100 properties that were in that have the same residential or an AG1, AG4 and natural, was any of them that had this natural, what I would say is natural severance that they've talked about, or was that anything in there of that study that actually, meaning is this a significant, a specific incidence, or is there other ones that have this natural split in it?
There would be other ones,
So there is other ones.
yes.
Okay. Are we ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion? Carried.
Sorry.
Okay.
Just one question. Laura, will you give them a copy of the recommendations that you made?
Yes, that would be going out.
Good, thank you.
That would be included in when it goes to committee for all.
Okay.
We're going to excuse ourselves and thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward to 6.3.1, provide community memorial hall. Suggested motion that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby approves the revised project schedule in this report for the renovation of the Blythe Memorial Community Hall. And further, that the project be tendered using the invited competitive bid, invited tender call process, that council authorizes Allen Avis Architects to recommend to the township a suitable list of pre-authorized general contractors for approval by the CAO, Director of Finance, Director of Recreation and Facilities, and North Huron Council at the April 4th, 2016 meeting to be invited to bid on the project. And further, that the staff are directed to prepare an agreement between the Township of North Huron and 1419 Inc. to provide assurances that 1419 Inc. provides the remaining funding of $2,749,655.47 to pay for the renovation construction budget, and that the Township of North Huron proceed with the approved renovation. Do I have a motion or question?
In this report, council requested the guarantees to be covered. But I know here the 1419 group, have they received the letter of intent from the province? Has that been received yet?
Sure.
It was my understanding when I last met with them last week that they were working over the next week with the province to finalize the details of that. So I haven't heard back from them as of yet, but I did advise them that you do have a special meeting on March 29th. And so I'm hoping that they will have the details of that worked out by then, that we can advise council.
So would it then be proper for us to delay this to the 29th and have them present that letter at that time?
The letter of intent is going to, sorry.
Go ahead.
it's going to detail the arrangements between the province and 1419 around the funding. This motion here talks about an agreement between the township and North Huron to cover off that. So I think their letter of intent with the province is going to be somewhat separate than the agreement that the township has with 1419 if they are covering off that. But I think they're going to want to have those details so that they can make the assurance to you.
I guess just further to that, I guess, have we received then any kind of a formal letter from 1419 specifying that they are going to be able to fund that balance and guaranteeing that balance?
I think their intent over the next week was to work with the province to try to finalize those details.
I'm seeing here where it says that a formal agreement should be prepared between, so we haven't done that.
Going to Pat.
Okay, so I appreciate if Sharon also wants to jump in, or Donna. We've worked very hard on this report to try to get our ducks in a row. Timing is very tight on this. And I guess what we want to also point out is that we're coming back on April 4th to hopefully have a lot more information and detail. The reason that these three pieces of the motion are here, not only is it that we want to get our ducks in a row, so the agreement with 1419 and the Township of North Huron, which will outline all of these details between us to make sure that the funding is going to flow and that the construction will continue. So that is really between us and 1419. Nothing will proceed until we know that they have the funding and it's firmed up, and that will be part of that process, and we will bring that all back to council. The second point, which is about the request to use the invited bid competitive bid process, is there's a number of ways to tender a project. We're asking to use this process so that we can prepare the tender documents. Other processes can take longer and maybe not come to the results that we need for this specific project as we've outlined in the report. So I think we're taking this one step at a time as we recognize that the announcement has been made, but we still need our assurances from 1419 and from the province. But in order for staff to start their work, in order to get our best interests of the Township of North Huron as part of the project, we would like to take these next three steps. We will come back on April 4th when we have another, and March 29th, as well as April 4th, to continue to update you on the process. And as you can see, we will not be releasing the bid until April 11th. So we have time to come back, and if there's any, I guess we would say, red flags or concerns, we will bring that back to council before we proceed with tendering or moving forward on the project. But we just want these sort of check marks in place so that we can start working on our agreement, that we know which method we're going to use. So we work with the architect to proceed with creating the tender document, and that this is the schedule that we are now presenting to you to go forward. And nothing has really changed except the start dates, the tendering dates. The construction and completion dates have not changed from the previous ones which we have presented. Just wanted to add those comments, and perhaps Donna and Sharon have other comments to add.
Not this time.
Deputy Reeve Campbell.
Just one question, just more of a clarification in my own mind. When they receive this money, who gets the money? Do we get the money? Does it go in our bank account? Do we pay the bills, or are they paying the bills? Because at the end of the project, I don't want us to be $1 million short because they've spent this someplace else, and we as a council have to come up with that money. That's my biggest concern.
So that's, the letter of intent is going to be between the province and 1419. So 1419 is actually the recipient of the money. So that is why we have to enter into an agreement with 1419 to talk about how that money is going to flow to the municipality to cover off the renovation expenses, because we are the owner of the building, and all of those expenses will be flowing through the township's books.
Councillor Knott.
Quick question, do we find out yet when the Ontario government is proposing to put forth that budget for approval? Is there a date for that at this point in time?
Provincial budget.
Yeah, when's it going to be approved?
That was something that I thought of very strongly, because with the majority government, I expect the budget will pass, but
Everything is negotiable up until the point it's passed.
Yeah.
So how soon is that? That's a date they haven't given?
That, we don't know definitively, but I expect that will be some of what they're trying to work out with the province and hopefully find some assurances over the next while.
Councillor Syed.
So to answer, so I guess my question is, just to clarify, Councillor Nod and Councillor Campbell's issue about risk mitigation from 1419 to the municipality's perspective. In the agreement, there is specific details as to the risk if something is short. The council is only up to the level of 500,000. That's what our deal is. So I think that's the intention, is that would be in the ad agreement, and if it's signed, then they're on the hook. Yes, it's our facility, but they're on the hook to get this project over the finish line. Is that correct?
Those are the details that the council has stated from the beginning.
Yes.
Their financial commitment was $500,000. And so right now, I know that 1419 is working very diligently with the province to try to nail down when this money will flow. So I think we just have to be patient, and hopefully they can work through that process, understanding very clearly that council has set the parameters of what they will provide to fund this project, and the agreement that will be put in place will clearly state that. So those are the details that we're going to have to work with our lawyer to develop in the agreement. And as Pat stated in her report, there will have to be further discussion with 1419 around the detail of, what happens if there's project overruns and that sort of thing. So I think there's a lot of conversation yet to be had, and we'll get that detail finalized into the agreement.
Councillor Syed.
So as a follow-up though, I think Councillor Nod has asked numerous times, and I think we've continually asked for an update from 1419. Come here with a presentation that shows us where your money, regardless of the 3.3 million, we think that's coming from the government. Where is everything else coming from? And I think the unknown for us is really, that's where the struggle for us is that, like, I'm okay with moving forward, but it's always that unknown is the issue that I think I as a councillor have. And if I always like to look at somebody in the face and say, when they're telling me where this money's coming from, I can read them. And if they're gonna tell me that, then great. If not, then I have an issue. And if they're not willing to come here, that's an even bigger concern to me.
So I think that those are some of the things that we're going to have to see coming forward from 1419, and they're working out those details with the province. And I'm hoping that they will come forward with a budget for all of their activities that they're doing for the redevelopment of Blythe. We know they have the redevelopment of the school, and I believe that they still want the community to have ownership as well in this renovation. So the seat sale is still going to be ongoing, and they're going to be looking for community partnership and ownership in this renovation as well. So I think we have to wait for those details to come forward. If you look at, where the bulk of the money has come, I think you can understand why they haven't been able to communicate during this process, because they've been working with the province, providing information ongoing and moving on to the next step and the next step until they reached this big announcement. So there has been a lot of work going on behind the scenes to be able to secure this money. And I think that's why you're seeing that they haven't been able to come to communicate with you exactly, what their funding plan has been. So we have discussed, I know I have discussed in my meetings with them about them coming forward with their fundraising plan as part of this. How is this money from the province going to be allocated? And, what do you still expect to see from the community as far as community partnership and ownership in this renovation?
And I will add to Sharon's comments that there still is a number of other places that they are trying to leverage the township's money and the province's money announcement federally, and there are other avenues that they're working on, but it's just something like when we hear of a development, we know certain things can be good, but we can't say anything about it until the person supplying the money wants to make the press release. Pat?
Just to add to our CAO's comments, that my most recent conversation with 1419 is they're all aware, the province, 1419, are all aware of our time pressures. If we want to put the shovel in the ground in September, of how quickly we all need to work through this, that they will work through this letter of agreement with the province, and they will share that with us. They will bring that forward so we will understand how that money is going to flow. We're still waiting to hear about the Heritage Grant. We're also, as Sharon mentioned, all of the other naming opportunities are still out there. So I guess what this news has brought to us is that they have the backing to proceed with the project. If this funding comes through, this is enough to move the renovation project forward, which is one of their priorities. The details of how that is going to flow, how it's going to be divided, where the other money will come in, if we get the Heritage Grant, when the seat sale is completed, is all still to come, and will be outlined in the letter of intent, or sorry, letter of agreement from the province, and also inside our agreement with them. I guess we're just asking permission tonight to proceed with that, getting our lawyers to start that conversation so we can bring that agreement back to you to review and adopt this bylaw and to feel comfortable with the content of that. We don't have anything yet because we haven't had permission to go proceed with that, creating that agreement for you. So that's really where we're at. We're all in a wait, but we're also all aware of the deadlines that need to be met.
Sure.
I'd just like to note, and Pat, please correct me if I'm wrong, but to date, 1419 has covered the consulting fees that we've incurred as part of this project. So if we move forward to develop tender documents, that would be the same arrangement that they would be covering off that
Yes.
cost.
Yep. In fact, there's still a balance in the account to assist with that covering off. Yes.
Councillor Knott?
Yeah, I'm just going to state that I understand that we have the time parameters and we do want to get forward. Just want to make clear that, you know, once we do let these contracts, they're going to be in our name. We own that building. So if there are any hiccups, that we make sure that we are covered. We've got our $500,000 limit, and that is clearly stated there. In the event that there is a problem with short funds, that they're still going to be responsible for that. That's my only concern. We've said 500,000, that's the limit. You know, we're not going beyond that. So, but I will support the basics, and I understand this, that we get on with the time parameters as necessary. So I will support this, with the understanding that we make very clear that when we see that document come back April 4th, no later than April 4th.
Back here? That is our intent, and if it's not here April 4th, we'll tell you why it's not, and we'll keep you informed.
You'll have a good reason.
Yes, absolutely. Because we're not on our own timeline, we have to wait for others. We're not in 100% control of this, but we're on the phone all the time trying to move this forward.
Is my impression that our policy all through this has been that we don't commit ourselves to any payments of anything until we have the money and we know where the money is going to be. And now, I mean, they're frantically and progressively courting the federal government, and they've found a warm reception at many levels, but there's no guarantee, no word yet that that's going to come. But we're not going to get into that level of expenditure until that is all settled. So I think it's really well planned, and there will be difficulties because we can't control the government. We can't control a lot of things, But make sure that we've got a guarantee and we're not going to go ahead recklessly without assurances.
Councillor Syed,
To move this on, I will make the recommendation or motion,
move,
the suggested motion moved.
and Councillor, let's make it seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. And 6.4.1, gravel tenders, and the council of the Township of North Huron hereby accepts the tender results and awards the tender to Joe Kerr Limited to crush, load, haul, and apply 23,000 tons of crushed gravel to the township rural roadways. And further, that the council of the Township of North Huron authorize pre-budget approval with the amounts to be included in the 2016 budget. Councillor Hallahan moves, Deputy Reeve Campbell seconds. Any discussion? All in favor?
Just one question. Is this coming out without hitting it out of it? Yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay. 6.6.1, ESTC Business Plan Consultancy. That the council of the Township of North Huron hereby contact KPMG to provide business planning consultation to the Emergency Services Training Center.
No further motion.
And Councillor Wyden seconds. Discussion. I'm going to Councillor Knott first.
I guess through yourself to Dave here, I see two figures in here, one of 35,000 plus HST and another one for 15,000 plus HST. Are there two different items in here?
There are two options.
Or are these are two options?
Two options. Option one is a complete
Comprehensive.
package at 35, and 15,000 is a more bare bones, but cover what we need to kind of proposal.
But I don't see in your motion here which of the options that we're agreeing. We're putting forth a motion to contract them, but for what? For
My
the 35
recommendation would be the $15,000 proposal.
Okay.
If council wants to spend 35, I'm more than happy to take that number, but
Bless you. So
I got to know from Ray.
My point is, can we then have this motion here does not state that. So it should state that it's the $15,000 option we're voting on, not the 35. So if we could clarify that for Mr. Campbell's motion.
Okay. James?
Are we sure we can have this done? It says less than 3 months, but
Yes.
sometimes we do that, we open ourselves up.
No,
for 6
that
months.
was my criteria, was that, and part of that is we've got a person hired under contract for a 3-month period in the absence of our previous administrator for the training center. So we want to have this buttoned up so we have some sort of structure and some sort of direction to go and hire as appropriate. And they assure me that I have no problem.
Anything further? All those in favor of the motion? Carried.
Your worship, if I could, I'd just like to, I've got a habit of bringing high school co-op students with me to council. I'd just like to introduce the council, Gavin and Lindsay at the back there. They're two of our co-op students. Gavin is in CHSS, and Lindsay lives down just down the road from you, Neil, and Pat. And pleasure to have them, and just wanted to introduce them to council as they're with me tonight.
Just checking the boots, okay, just not sure.
Want to step on?
Well, no, they should have been showing up a little more, but that's fine. No, it's okay, I'm just kidding.
Okay, moving to 6.7.1, the economic development strategy. And that the council of the Township of North Huron hereby accepts the North Huron Economic Development Strategic Plan for information purposes. And further, that the clerk is directed to prepare a bylaw to adopt the document at the April 4th, 2016 council meeting. What is council's pleasure? You'll move the motion? Councillor Vaughan seconds?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm having a lot of trouble wrestling with this economic development report. And I think it's going to take a lot of discussion and thought to sort of tease out the bones of the messages. Like, I see a lot of things that we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll do something else, but no names attached and no indication of how it's going to be done or when it's going to be done. A lot of things have to be worked out. And I would like to see, maybe I'm unrealistic, but I thought that coming out of this would be, here are a number of sectors where we could really make headway. This is where we should be putting our attention. Here's another area that is potential. And I mean, we can't manufacture ideas that didn't come out of the process, but somehow that's going to have to be done still with this very lengthy and complicated report.
Maybe Connie can chime in as well, but Connie and I have had some conversation about, what are the next steps? And you do typically see in an economic development or any sort of strategic plan, an action plan that prioritizes the work and a work plan. So we have talked about making that a next step is to sit down and create a work plan. But as you may have seen in my economic development report that was included in the consent agenda, there are a number of things up in the air within the county as far as economic development is concerned. So I think we look at this as a building year for economic development in North Huron and really across the county. And we'll be waiting to see what follows the county work plan now that it's been issued. And we are receiving some communication now about positions that are being hired at the county that would provide service to the lower tiers. And I think those conversations are going to keep evolving over the next couple of months. So, I think we'll be coming back to you and having more chats this year as far as the future of economic development and perhaps drilling down within our plan and looking at some focus areas that we can at least start an item or two in the plan as we go forward. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Connie.
No, just that, we have just had a look at the Huron County work plan, and I think we really need to do this whole process justice. We need to consider what that work plan looks like when we're mapping out our wellness. So.
Councillor Syke?
So I agree with the comments that have happened. I think we need to wait a little bit to not rush into something with regards to our plan. If it's gonna counteract what the county's proposing out of the work plan as well. The one concern I do have with the plan as it reads is the performance measures tend to be pretty high level. Like they're like number of courses, like they're pretty high level. They're not, there's not really, there's not a measurable to know whether the goal has actually been, at the end of the day, been resulted from what you've planned here. So that's kind of where I think part of the work plan might help with understanding what the end goal is, but understanding what that measurable is trying to show what that goal is. Just showing that we have I'm just using an example, number of potential mentors identified. Well, that's not really a goal. That's not really a performance measure. That's just really stating what we have. So we need to I think that needs to be beefed up a little bit to really understand what the goal is and understand that performance measure is meant to get us to that goal. And that's where I think this has been, it's kind of really, in my sense, lacking really from that perspective.
Councillor Vaughan?
I'd just like to carry on from what Councillor Seep has said. That's often the phase of strategic planning that gets neglected. They have this wonderful document with all kinds of nice words and so on. But the next step is the work plan. It says precisely what the goal is of this and what are the steps going to be taken, who's taking them, how much is it going to cost, and when is it going to be done, and that sort of thing. And that's the work that's so left to do. And if we don't take those steps, then you can really recycle that paper and forget about it.
Supplementary, Councillor Syke, or?
Yeah, more of my question to someone is I just want to ensure, like, we also already have a strategic plan overall. That I think we need to be corresponding to make sure that this has not any hindrance to that strategic plan, because if it's something in here that's different than what we've already said our 4-year, 5-year plan is, we really have to understand that too. So it's to have a strategic plan within a strategic plan is a complex issue, and we need to understand that nothing's counteracting or counterbalancing both. So.
Sharon?
I think those are fair comments, and you know, I do read our strategic plan, believe it or not. And I think we actually have achieved some of the things within our strategic plan. But part of the process that we talked about is whether we, you know, when we went through this whole economic development strategic planning process, whether it was perfect or whether it wasn't, was that we do have to find a way to incorporate it into our everyday business. Our corporate strategic plan talks about creating business plans for each of the department and incorporating some of the actions within the strategic plan into those business plans. And I think looking at what's happening in North Huron right now, the number of big initiatives that we have on our plate, the fact that we are rebuilding and redeveloping many departments, I dare say almost all of them over the next couple of years, it is an opportunity to put everything on the table, to start looking at developing business plans for each of the departments and looking at achieving goals, whether they be in our economic development strategic plan or our corporate strategic plan, which also does include some economic development action items. So we certainly won't be forgetting those documents as we work to rebuild our departments.
Deputy Reeve Campbell?
If you did read to Sharon, how close are we working with Morris Turnberry on this? Because now that we've combined some things here, and I don't even know if they have an office, a position for this over there. But I know that we receive calls at Morris Turnberry, should receive, and we're receiving calls at Morris Turnberry. Like it's back and forth. I'm just wondering how close are we working together on this? Because with us developing our industrial plan, we need to be really working hard together on this.
Yes. So we have definitely had some discussion on, you know, what does our partnership look like going forward? Mm-hmm. And that's why we've kept the working group in place. So if there are any further opportunities to share and collaborate, those are going to be coming to that working group table and from there to council. Economic development is certainly something that's been in the realm of discussion, but we know that we have to do first things first. We're working on our building and public works, and we're sort of waiting for what comes out of the county plan before we make any decisions. But certainly we will be working back and forth with them, because as you say, we do have some shared projects in economic development that we'll be working on together.
Okay. The one thing I look at is this is big and enveloping, and we were told we had to put 5 people on a committee to handle it. We scrambled, we got them quickly. There's, I forget, I'll say 15 as a ballpark number of other ones that we were able to draw in that represented sectors. But there's a lot of other people that we still have to draw in yet. This was a forced issue. We followed timelines, but much of this stuff has to go a lot deeper. And I think you could assign a person 700 hours a week to do all that might be done in this. Just an example of how big it could be. And we are definitely going to be working in the confines, and that sometimes you will have to reevaluate what your targets are. That it might be, using the example, so many courses run at the ESTC. Well, you run so many courses, but how do they fit into the overall? And that maybe has to be extended, expanded as to how they fit in the overall thing of strategic planning to move the township forward. So that I think this is a very good start, but it's something that definitely is long range and will have to be a living document that has to have the ability to be renewed all the time. Okay, do I have a motion on that? Motion on the floor. Are we ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Okay, we're into highlights. No.
Council report?
Okay. Was there any correspondence?
It was in,
In consent agenda.
so nothing requiring action.
Okay. Going to Reeves' report. The deputy premier's announcement of money coming in as long as the provincial budget passes. Has to rate as one of the biggest things. There's so many other things moving forward, and that with the reorganization, that's quite a bit of extra work for the staff in doing all the human resource job descriptions and having it so that it fits 2 townships rather than 1 now. I think as a council, we say thank you to staff for all the work that they're doing in that. And I'm sure all the councillors realize that and back me in that. County Council, next to no report. It's just ticking along in its own way. That I will go to individual council members for reports, questions, or statements. Councilor Bodden.
I'd like to make a comment from the CHIPS program. I'm representative to the CHIPS program. Our group made a presentation to council. We have a very small budget, runs about $20,000 a year. Pretty well every year, we get a grant of about $5,000 from the county. And it's amazing how many programs are run under that program for so little money. And this time, A very good presentation, I'm told.
That's
I was there, but I thought it was good. A lot of people agreed. Requesting this $5,000 and listing all of the events and the programs that are run under this fund. We have tremendous support from the Ontario Provincial Police and from the Ministry of Transportation and from other sources. The Health Department houses the program. They sort of look after the administration of the program, and they have a staff member who coordinates that committee. And I understand, I haven't seen this officially, but I understand that the county decided to make a grant of just $3,000 this year, cutting back $2,000 on a very, very tight program. We list every cost, every cent where the money is going. And I think this is not an economic move on their part to save money. It's just downright meanness. And I'm really strongly objecting to it. I think that there's something seriously wrong. When the presentation was made, the comments from council members, county council members, was very positive, very appreciative of the programs that are done and how they help with safety and injury prevention and awareness in the community. And to have this slap in the face is really downright mean, and I cannot speak with enough concern to describe how I feel about this. But anyway, that's my take on that process.
And just a second, Bill. I was disappointed with that. And it's sort of funny. The ones that were behind cutting it from 5 to 3 seem to be the ones that we have on the county economic development. They don't understand the leverage that $5,000 gave, where $3,000 wouldn't give as much leverage. So it cuts a number of the functions that the volunteers get. Bill?
Could I make a motion that we ask staff or the CAO to prepare a letter, or the clerk, whoever should do it, a letter from this council to Huron County and to the other municipalities involved in CHIPS and express our disappointment and ask them to reconsider their decision and take that funding back up to $5,000?
I'm in favor of it, but I don't think I should second it as a member of the committee.
Well, I'm theoretically a member of the committee too, so it doesn't matter. But, yeah, you second that?
I'll second it. Councilor Mott, Deputy Recorder. Further discussion on it, if any?
I think the Wayne Police support this too, do they not?
Absolutely. Yes, Tim is at a lot of our meetings,
Yeah.
but he does not have other work regarding the stop sign. Ironically, one of the biggest users of our stop sign this year has been Huron County. And I'm putting on a campaign to tell them the next time they ask for it, say, buy your own. Because it costs a lot of money and we have to pay insurance on it.
Okay, all in favor of the motion? Further issues from councilors? Bill?
Just one. We've, and I guess this is maybe Richard, can we make our request for service, request for complaint, can we bring that somehow more to the forefront on our website, make it more prominent? And at the same time, are we kind of progressing? I know you got a lot on your plate, but are we progressing towards getting that to be an online fillable, submittable form?
Sure. So there is a link that we created on the website under quick links. It's towards the bottom middle area of the website, and it does say service requests / complaints there. So we have made that was a suggestion that I think maybe Councillor Ritzman mentioned a few meetings ago, and so we have made that change. Hopefully that's more visible. As far as the online fillable form, there's a few things that we're working on in that regard. We are looking at options. The version of the software that we're using right now is a free program that we've adapted to work, and so there's a few bugs with it, but there's some other options that we may be able to get on board with sharing with the county or something like that. So we're investigating that still, for sure.
And just a slight further to that
Okay.
I know it's hard to get this out to everybody, but is it possible, can we create a little draft, a little instruction form that we can put in with the next tax notice or water bill, explaining it again to people, this is what we've done, this is where you find it, and explain to them that, by signing it, there is a confidentiality to it, really promoting the use of it, because it is, once people have had to explain to them, because they just had an incident here and it works out well, they're very happy with the system. It's just trying to get it through to them that this is available to you. This is what you do. This is how it works. So is it possible? Could we do that in our next water bill or something? Can we create that?
Next newsletter that we have, certainly.
We don't get a lot of those.
But we don't care about East Walmart. I don't know. You don't have any complaints in East Walmart, do you?
That comment is out of order.
Sorry, I apologize. With apologies to East Walmart. Can we put it in the water bill and the tax bill? Don't
As we work forward with the implementation of our shared service project, we're going to have to do a lot of communication with our public on how they access building services, how they access public works services. So certainly complaint procedures are going to be a big part of that communication as well. So we can keep it at the forefront there.
Deputy Reed?
Just along that line, if I called this on Friday, a road complaint, and I said to them, why don't you fill out online? It's online. They said, well, we don't have a computer. I said, well, I'm sure that they have them at the front desk. I don't know, but I'm sure hoping if they showed up. Then I find out they've already been in and filled out complaints forms at the township.
So we do work with people as well. I mean, not everybody has the same ability and capability to go online and fill out forms. So if there is a resident that verbally wants to be able to call in and give a complaint, we'll either help them fill out the form if they want to come in, or we will accept complaints still on the phone if they're a small matter. If it's something larger, we do like to have them come in and sign the form, so we know that it's a formal complaint, but we certainly will help anyone who needs help with the process.
So if I suggest to this person, he will help them?
No, maybe the front office.
Well, that's after an hour conversation. They were going to come fill it out.
If you're retired, you could print it off and go for some coffee.
That's what I do.
That's what I do. That's what I did today.
So,
You put it tomorrow?
good for me.
I haven't got that far yet.
You know how to use a printer.
All by myself.
There's hope yet.
Anything else in council issues?
Just one note of encouragement. I think our road guys are doing a fairly decent job with what we have to work with out there. But we are getting some road complaints, but there's still frost coming out of the roads. And try to explain that to some people. It's hard, but our guys are working really hard to keep things going. Thanks. Kelly, did you hear that?
Yeah.
You don't notice a motion. So moving to 10.1 bylaws. Moving to 10.1. Being a bylaw to appoint Richard Al as the manager of Employee and Business Services Deputy Clerk for the Township of North Huron. And that it's the bylaw is in two parts. The bylaw number 28, 2016, being a bylaw to appoint Richard L. as the manager of Employee and Business Services Deputy Clerk for the Township of North Huron, to be introduced, read a first and second time. Councillor Ritzman and Councillor Vauden. All in favor? Okay, the same bylaw to be read a third and final time, signed by the Reeve clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Deputy Reeve Campbell and Councillor Hallahan.
Have a little congratulations to Richard. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, we better do the third. Finish the
Sorry.
third
I'm
reading. All in favor?
I jumped the gun.
Okay. Bylaw number 29, 2016. The bylaw number 29, 2016, being a bylaw to authorize the regional clerk to sign on behalf of council a license extension and amending agreement, number 2, under lease ID M72546 between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Ministry of Economic Development, Employment and Infrastructure and the Corporation of the Township of North Huron, be introduced, read a first and second time.
So moved.
Councillor Sype, Councillor Ritzman-Davinga. All in favor? Okay, the same bylaw to be read third and final time. And Councillor Vauden and Councillor Sype. All in favor? Carried. The bylaw number 30, 2016, being a bylaw to authorize the Regional Clerk to sign on behalf of council license extension and amending of that's good. That's right, as it is.
For the land use.
Yeah, for the amending agreement.
Okay, this is the amending agreement. Okay. Good. The Queen in Right of Ontario is represented by the Minister of Economic Development, Employment and Infrastructure and the Corporation of the Township of North Huron for the land used for the Greenway Trail be introduced, read a first and second time. Councillor Sype and Councillor Vauden. In favor? Okay, and bylaw number 30, we read a third and final time. Councillor Vauden and Councillor Ritzman-Davinga, all in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 31, 2016, being a bylaw to appoint members to a policing advisory committee for the Corporation of the Township of North Huron, to be introduced, read a first and second time.
Comment after.
Okay, Councillor Sype, Councillor Ritzman-Davinga. Comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to make note that at the last council meeting when we talked about these advisory committee members, that a representative for the Wingham Police Association was actually omitted in error. So this bylaw is actually stating that we're adding them to the group. Obviously, we want them a part of the committee. We don't want them outside of that. So the representative from the Wingham Police Association will be on the committee as well.
Okay. Ready to all in favor of that? All in favor? And read a third and final time, signed by the Raven Clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Deputy Reeve Campbell, Councillor Knott. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Bylaw number 32, 2016, being a bylaw to adopt the shared services transitional organizational chart for the pilot project for the Township of North Huron and the municipality of Morris Turnberry, be introduced, read a first and second time. So Councillor Sype, Councillor Vaughn. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 32 to be read a third and final time, signed by the Reeve Clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Deputy Reeve Campbell, Councillor Hallahan. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Bylaw number 33, 2016, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve Clerk to sign on behalf of council a site plan control agreement between Natural Farm Industry, Inc. and the Corporation of the Township of North Huron. Be introduced, read a first and second time. Councillor Knott, Deputy Reeve Campbell, all in favor? And bylaw 33 to be read a third and final time, signed by the Reeve Clerk and to be engrossed in the bylaw book. Councillor Ritzman-Taninga and Councillor Sype, all in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 35, 2016, being a bylaw to appoint a chief building official for the Corporation of the Township of North Huron, be introduced, read a first and second time. Sharon.
If you wouldn't mind, just because this is an amendment to the agenda, if I could give council a little background to this. We have a shared service agreement or a reciprocal agreement in place currently with Morris Turnberry that allows each of the building officials to work back and forth. But we learned from the ministry that when they're doing that we actually need to appoint them by bylaw as a chief building official in the township. So in light of our shared service agreement coming up anyway, we're just going forward to appoint them both.
Biden and not. All in favor? Carried. And read a third and final time, signed by the Reeve Clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Deputy Reeve Campbell and Councillor Sype, all in favor? Carried. Gosh, that's a lot of signing bylaws. Announcements, if any? Other business? Okay, we need a closed session. So, motion to go in camera, Deputy Reeve Campbell, Councillor Vaughn, all in favor? Carried. We will have a short recess.